Hi. Today, we will explain the storyline of a movie titled He's Out There, which was released in 2018. Okay, let's get right to the story. A family consisting of Laura and her two daughters, Maddie and Kayla, are going on vacation to their family cabin in the woods. Originally, they were going to go with their father, Sean, but suddenly Sean got a last-minute job from his office, but he promised to catch up with them at the cabin at midnight. Kayla, the older sister, waits for Laura to finish getting ready in the car while reading a book about a little mouse and a crow that scares the mouse about the darkness lurking around. Meanwhile, her younger sister, Maddie, drew with chalk on the sidewalk. She had a creepy doll that she called a zombie baby. After all the luggage was in the car, Laura said goodbye to Sean and asked him to buy snacks for them before they left for the cabin. A few hours later, Laura arrived at the cabin. She had trouble opening the lock on the gate to the cabin until a young man named Owen came to help her. He said he had lived in the area for many years with his family and was considered the security guard for Laura's family's cabin. Owen said that there used to be another family living nearby, but they moved away after their son John went missing. Laura then introduced Owen to her two children. At first, Owen thought they were on vacation without their father, but Laura told him that their father would arrive later that night. After that, she said goodbye and thanked Owen for his help. Laura's family cabin was located on the edge of a lake with a peaceful atmosphere. Maddie and Kayla ran around the pier while Laura unloaded their belongings. Sean called Laura to ask if they had arrived. It turned out Sean was at the store buying surprise gifts for the children, such as dolls and music boxes, as well as drinks for himself and Laura. However, he admitted he was stopping at a gas station and promised to arrive by 11 o'clock at night. Laura went inside to put Maddie and Kayla's bags in the playroom, then lay down in her own room for a moment to rest and stretch. She was very happy to be back at the cabin, letting them play freely around the cabin, while she peeked at Maddie and Kayla playing on the swings from her bedroom window. Not long after the two girls stopped playing on the swings, Kayla found a red rope lying on the ground, and they followed it, which turned out to be tied from one tree to another. Curious, they followed the red rope into the forest, where it led further into the woods. Meanwhile, Laura changed her clothes, then peeked out the window again, but she didn't see Maddie and Kayla. Half panicked, Laura went downstairs and called for her two children. Thinking they were inside, it turned out they were on the porch, and they eventually went back upstairs. Laura told them to change into their pajamas and come downstairs. Kayla hid something she had found in the forest and put it in a drawer. She didn't want to tell her mother what it was, saying it was something for their father. As bedtime approached, Laura read them their favorite storybook about mice and crows, even though she already knew how the story ended. Kayla never got bored listening to it. Maddie admitted she was sleepy and asked permission to go to bed first. Laura reached a page with a terrifying illustration. Two characters on a swing, with another character in the middle. However, the picture didn't seem to match the other illustrations in the book, so Laura asked Kayla if she drew it. Kayla said no, the picture had been there for a long time. A few minutes later, Kayla followed. Laura saw that Maddie was shivering and sweating cold. She made sure Maddie wasn't sick, but she just looked gloomy. Immediately after putting her daughter to bed, Laura lit a cigarette. Sean called the cabin again. Laura answered the phone outside the cabin, casually bringing it to the lakeside. She said she had left her phone in the car, so she didn't know Sean had tried calling. Sean said he was on his way and would arrive in a few hours. He wanted to make sure everyone was okay. Laura told him she had left the cabin gate open because the lock was jammed. Before going back inside, Laura heard strange noises coming from the forest. She turned around but didn't see anything. Laura eventually fell asleep without waiting for Sean, but in the middle of the night, Kayla woke her up saying Maddie was acting strangely. Laura rushed to wake Maddie and found her sitting quietly outside the play tent. Shortly after Laura scolded her, Maddie vomited. Laura took her to the bathroom so Maddie could finish vomiting, but suddenly, Maddie choked. Laura found that Maddie had swallowed something. She took a piece of cloth with the word "hello" written on it from Maddie's mouth. It turned out that earlier that day, the children had found a table with tea and mysterious food in the middle of the forest. They called it tea party time, and Maddie even ate and brought home a muffin from there. Laura suspected that the cloth came from there. Sure enough, after Laura opened the cake, she found another message with the word "goodbye." Laura immediately grew anxious. She picked up the phone in the kitchen to call for help, but stopped when she heard loud noises outside. Maddie and Kayla, who were scared, kept asking what was happening outside. Laura didn't know and was afraid, but she had to protect her children. The phone didn't work, so Laura grabbed a kitchen knife to defend herself. The only way to contact help was through her phone, but it was left in the car. Laura said she had to get the phone quickly. She turned off the lights so the intruder wouldn't see them and quietly made her way to the car. She kept hearing strange noises from the forest, but the phone wasn't there. To her surprise, she found a gift-wrapped package tied with red string on the passenger seat. Laura opened the package and found Maddie's zombie doll inside. Suddenly, she felt in danger. Finally, she ran inside and picked up Maddie and Kayla to leave the cabin immediately. Laura heard giggling from inside the forest, followed by the sound of something breaking the car window. After driving a few meters, the car tires came off one by one, almost overturning them. Laura hurriedly brought Maddie and Kayla back home, instructing Kayla to close all the curtains in the cabin. Meanwhile, Maddie was still unwell, suffering from a fever and shortness of breath. Laura told Kayla to watch over Maddie while she ran to the bathroom to get medicine. Shortly afterward, Laura heard knocking on the cabin window. She waited until the sound stopped before daring to check. From behind the window, she didn't see anyone. But when she slid the curtains, she was shocked to see a photo of her family stuck to the glass with the faces of Maddie, Kayla, and Sean defaced. Laura immediately told her children to hide. At that moment, Sean was already near the cabin. Laura told Maddie and Kayla to put on their shoes and get ready to go find help. Maddie suddenly heard footsteps outside. She said their father had arrived and was outside now. Laura checked the window. Outside, a masked man was standing near a tree. He waved at Laura, but she told them it wasn't their father. Sean had already reached the gate, but the door was locked. Even though Laura had said she had left the gate unlocked, someone had written, "Follow me," on the gate, followed by a red rope. Sean called Laura's phone. Strangely, the ringing of Laura's phone could be heard nearby, but when Sean answered, he only heard someone breathing. Sean called Laura's phone again. This time, he followed the red string into the forest. He thought his family was playing a prank on him, but Sean kept walking into the forest while asking them to stop the game because he was very tired. Laura's phone was picked up, but there was no sound from Laura. Instead, he heard his own voice. Not far from there, Sean saw a table with a teacup and food. He found Laura's phone turned on, its screen glowing brightly in the darkness of the forest, allowing Sean to use it as a flashlight. Sean shone the light around him and saw a family of life-size dolls with wooden heads. Without realizing it, someone wearing a similar mask was moving from behind toward Sean, carrying an axe. Back at the cabin, Laura tried to calm the children, especially Maddie, who was weak. She heard movement from the attic and decided to take both children down slowly while straining her ears to locate the source of the sound. Soon, she heard Sean's voice in the distance. Laura tried to confirm it was indeed Sean, but didn't immediately open the door. She was still unsure, especially since the voice didn't respond to her questions. Gathering her courage, Laura finally opened the door. She saw Sean's phone hanging on the cabin porch. It turned out that was where Sean's voice was coming from. Not only that, the rope holding the phone suddenly fell, revealing a message that read, "I'm home," followed by Sean's body. He had died horribly, his eyes gouged out. The children screamed hysterically upon seeing their father's body on the porch. Laura quickly entered and locked the front door, telling them it wasn't their father, just a doll trick to scare them. Suddenly, the power in the cabin was cut off. Laura led the children to the kitchen, then turned on a flashlight, checked the situation outside, and brought both of them out through the kitchen door. Outside, Laura and the children saw a pair of dolls placed on a swing, while in the middle, there was another doll hanging. Suddenly, from a different direction, someone threw something at them. Laura and the children rushed back into the cabin, which made Maddie and Kayla even more frightened. Laura dragged a table to block the door, while Kayla took their storybook and remembered a strange picture that was similar to the dolls on the swing. It was then that Laura and Kayla realized that the killer was the one who had drawn the pictures in the book. The killer then threw one of the dolls through the cabin window. The three of them ran upstairs and locked themselves in a room. Laura peered through the door crack to make sure the killer wasn't following them. Laura was so scared she couldn't hold back her tears. Maddie and Kayla gathered around to hug Laura and calm her down. When Maddie hugged her, Laura noticed eggshells in Maddie's hair. This gave Laura an idea, but she had to go outside the cabin. Maddie and Kayla immediately stopped their mother from leaving. They were too scared to be alone. Laura tried to calm them down and told them to focus on the numbers on the clock and count to 20, because she only went to the porch for a moment to take the car keys from Sean's pocket. Laura returned quickly. Just as a car entered the cabin yard, Laura heard someone enter the cabin, so she shouted to chase whoever was down there and claimed that she had a weapon. The car's owner turned out to be Owen. He got out and shone a flashlight around. Laura felt hopeful that Owen could help them. She shouted through the stuck window, warning Owen that someone was behind him. Unfortunately, Owen couldn't hear Laura's voice. Finally, Laura had no choice but to break the glass and shout, but it was too late. The killer struck Owen with his axe. Screaming hysterically, Laura and her children ran downstairs when she heard the sound of water running in the kitchen. She was even more shocked to find her children's storybooks covered with scary pictures. Laura felt that the pictures were threatening her. She then walked to the kitchen door and told Kayla and Maddie to come out. However, the killer was outside the door. He quickly broke the glass and grabbed Laura. Maddie and Kayla screamed as loud as they could as they watched their mother being taken away. Now they were alone. Kayla tried to gather her courage to lead her sister outside. She felt that they had to find their father, who Laura had said was in the car. Kayla let Maddie hold the kitchen knife. At first, Maddie hesitated and was afraid to leave the cabin. Suddenly, they heard the sound of a children's song in the distance. Kayla said it was their father coming. They crept outside and searched for the source of the sound, but found only an empty car outside. They opened the trunk and saw Laura tied up and gagged with tape. Kayla used the kitchen knife to open Laura's mouth, but Laura told them to run away. The killer approached from behind, and the two children ran back into the cabin. Unfortunately for Laura, the killer stabbed her in the waist and left her there. Meanwhile, Kayla and Maddie rushed upstairs and hid under the bed. The killer followed them inside and immediately guessed where they were hiding. Kayla and Maddie tried not to make a sound while the killer searched the room. He didn't find the children, but his instincts told him they were under the bed. The killer sat on the bed and said it was okay to be afraid. Hearing his voice, Maddie gasped, letting out a small sound. Kayla quickly covered Maddie's mouth to keep her quiet. The killer then introduced himself as John, telling them he had grown up in Laura's family cabin. He had been watching Laura's family for years, as they vacationed at the cabin every year. He was always around the house, but no one saw him. He watched from the darkness. He also admitted that the fairy tale book about the mouse and the crow had once belonged to young John. He left it for them to find so they could receive his message, but they never understood. John then pulled out a jar containing a mysterious liquid, opened the lid, and dipped a handkerchief into it. John recalled the riddle from the book, where the crow told the mouse to guess where the darkness was hiding, but he couldn't figure it out back then, just like Maddie and Kayla couldn't find John in the darkness. He continued to tell Kayla and Maddie that the darkness had been surrounding them all along, but it wasn't a shadow. In one swift motion, he flipped the bed over while shouting that he was the darkness they were looking for. Kayla and Maddie screamed in fear upon seeing John, but John pounced on them both and knocked them unconscious with the handkerchief. In an instant, Kayla and Maddie fainted. The next morning, John took the children to the edge of the forest. He had pulled out the axe he had left in Laura's body. He prepared life-sized wooden dolls he had carved himself, making eye holes and matching them to Maddie's eye size. Kayla had quietly regained consciousness. She waited until John moved away and tried to wake Maddie. From a distance, John frequently glanced at Kayla and Maddie's lifeless bodies. Kayla immediately pretended to faint every time John looked in her direction. John then tore off the artificial hand from the doll, approached Kayla's body, and measured her arm, which he thought would fit the doll. He was ready to swing his axe, but he heard music in the distance, distracting him. John eventually left Kayla and Maddie to approach the music. As soon as John left, Kayla quickly woke Maddie up. John heard that the sound of the music box was not far from Sean's car. Around the car, he saw gifts from Sean's car scattered on the ground. He picked up a teddy bear, but the sound of the music box caught his attention, so he put the bear back. It turned out the music box was coming from the trunk. John was frozen in place, staring at the music box. To his surprise, Laura was still alive and had managed to free herself from the red thread binding her. Laura attacked John, knocking him to the ground. After that, she struggled to wrestle the axe from John's hands with great effort, and eventually, Laura managed to strike John with his own axe. Meanwhile, Kayla was still trying to wake Maddie. At that moment, Laura stumbled over to pick up her two daughters. She felt incredibly grateful to see them again. Laura told them to get into Sean's car and start the engine. The car began moving away from the cabin. Kayla, still frightened, kept looking back to check on John's body. Not far from the cabin, the car suddenly stopped, but fortunately, it could be started again. Kayla turned back to look, but John's body was no longer there.